I've never really talked about this. Not in detail. People tend to laugh it off, or worse, they try to explain it away with logic, as if logic would dare set foot where this thing came from. It happened in the fall of 2013, when I was 23 and still full of that invincible kind of energy you only get in your early 20s. My best friend Ryan and I had planned a weekend camping trip deep in the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. No phones, no distractions, just the crisp air, some good whiskey, and a crackling fire under the stars. We left Pittsburgh around noon on a Friday and reached the trailhead by 4. We parked the car, loaded up our gear, and started the hike into the woods. Our destination was a remote site I'd read about on a survivalist forum. Supposedly unmarked and nearly untouched. Just raw wilderness. About 5 miles in, the trail split. There were no signs, but Ryan swore the left path sloped down toward a stream he remembered from a trip with his uncle. We took it. That was the first wrong turn. We never did find the stream. Instead, we ended up in a small clearing surrounded by tall, spindly trees that looked black against the evening sky. The ground was soft, the air damp, and there was this weird stillness. No birds, no bugs, not even wind. Just silence. I don't remember what made us decide to camp there. Maybe we were tired. Maybe we thought the silence meant peace. It didn't. We pitched our tent, built a fire, and cooked hot dogs on metal skewers. It was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. It felt like we were being watched. I know how that sounds, paranoid. But the sensation was visceral, like something ancient and unseen was crouched just beyond the firelight, listening. We turned in a little after midnight. I just started to drift off when I heard a sound that froze my blood. A long, scraping noise, like metal dragging across stone. At first, I thought it was an animal messing with our gear. I nudged Ryan. "You hear that?" He did. He sat up, listening. The noise came again, closer this time, but from the woods, maybe 30 feet from the tent. Then a voice. It wasn't a voice in the way you're thinking. It was like someone trying to speak through a broken speaker. Garbled, distorted, unnatural. "Mark." I sat bolt upright. "What the hell?" I whispered. Ryan's face was pale. "Did it say your name?" "Shoo." We listened. Nothing. Then, "Mark." Same voice. Same glitchy, mechanical tone. But it was behind the tent this time. We scrambled out of our sleeping bags and grabbed the flashlight. The beam barely pierced the darkness. We didn't see anything. No eye shine, no movement. Just trees and darkness. And then it was quiet again. "Probably some weirdo messing with us," Ryan said, trying to be brave. "Out here, we're 5 miles off any main trail." He didn't answer. Neither of us slept much. The next morning, we were both eager to pack up and leave. But when we stepped outside the tent, the fire pit was gone. Not just out, gone. The stones were scattered in a perfect circle, 10 feet from where we built it, like someone had lifted the whole thing and dropped the pieces deliberately. Our food bag was untouched, but our tent had a single, long scratch down the side, 3 feet long and narrow, as if made by a claw or a talon. We tried to rationalize it. Bear, prankster, wind, anything. We took a different trail back, or so we thought. But by 3 p.m., it was clear we were lost. The terrain was wrong. The trees too dense. The ground soggy in places it shouldn't have been. "I think we looped around," Ryan said. "Let's check the compass." He pulled it out. The needle spun aimlessly, like it was broken. I checked mine. Same thing. No service on either phone. No signal, no GPS. We weren't even picking up satellites. The sun was dipping low. Panic started to creep in. That's when we saw the cabin. It was old, real old, log-built, with a sagging porch and moss-covered roof. No glass in the windows, just empty holes like eye sockets in a skull. Ryan wanted to walk past it. I insisted we check it out. Maybe there was a map or an old radio. The front door creaked open with barely a touch. The inside smelled of damp rot and something else, something coppery, like blood. There were no lights, of course, just a broken cot, a toppled stove, and what looked like animal bones in the corner. The walls were covered in carvings. Symbols, spirals, eyes, words in a language I didn't know. Over and over again, one word appeared. "It walks." We left. Ran, actually. We set up camp in a nearby clearing, but we didn't light a fire. We didn't talk. We barely moved. That night, it came again. We heard it around 2 in the morning. Heavy footsteps, slow and deliberate, circling the tent. Not animal footsteps. Boots. Then the whisper came again. But this time, it said Ryan's name. Ryan. He covered his ears. Make it stop. Make it stop. I looked through a small gap in the tent flap. Nothing. Then I saw it. Just beyond the tree lean stood a figure. Tall. Too tall. 7 feet or more. It was wrapped in shadows, its outline flickering like a bad TV signal. I couldn't see its face, but I could feel its attention. That's the best way to describe it. Like it saw all of me. Every secret, every failure, every dark thought. And it was smiling. And then it mimicked my voice. Ryan, come here. Come look at this. Ryan turned toward the tent flap. No, I hissed. That's not me. The figure didn't move, but the voice came again, louder, more confident. Come on, man. Just a sec. You gotta see this. Ryan's hand reached for the zipper. I tackled him. That's not me. The thing screamed. Not like an animal. Not like a man. Like 100 voices screaming in unison, high and low, young and old. It rattled the tent poles. Then it was gone. At dawn, we found the trail. Not a game trail. A real one, marked and familiar. Somehow, impossibly, we were only a quarter-mile from the main parking area. We never spoke of what happened. Not really. I moved to a city. Ryan did too. We stopped hiking, stopped camping, stopped being close, to be honest. That trip broke something in both of us. But here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. Last year, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a cassette tape and a note in Ryan's handwriting. Do you remember the voice? I played the tape. It was static at first, then footsteps, then the voice, Mark. And then, after a long pause, another voice joined in. Mine. Ryan, come here. Come look at this. But it wasn't a recording. I never said those words. Not then. Not ever. And now, every so often, late at night when I'm alone, I hear it again. From the hallway. From the woods behind my apartment. From inside the closet. A voice, my voice, saying something I never said. Something that walks with me now. I should start by saying I've always been a skeptic. Ghost stories? Urban legends? I love them, sure, but I never believed them. I was the kind of person who'd debunk every spooky thing with science, logic, or psychology. That changed the summer of 2018. It happened in the Green Mountains of Vermont, where my cousin Ben and I spent our summers hiking and trail running. We were both in our 30s, fit, outdoorsy, and maybe a little too confident in our survival skills. That July, we decided to tackle a lesser-known route that looped through some of the denser parts of the national forest. It wasn't on most maps anymore, but Ben had found it in an old guidebook from the 70s. The trail was called Old Spindle Loop. We should have known better the moment we asked the ranger about it. Spindle, the guy repeated. No one's been out that way in years. Storm took out a bridge. Trails washed out. You'd be bushwhacking most of the way. Perfect. Just the kind of challenge we liked. We started the hike late on a Friday morning with packs full of gear, maps, a satellite phone, and enough food for 3 days. The first day was beautiful. Dense green canopy overhead, birdsong echoing, and the smell of pine and damp soil. We made camp near a dry creek bed around dusk and cooked dinner over a portable stove. It felt like heaven, until the whistling started. It was faint at first. One long, high note. Not melodic. More like someone blowing air through clenched teeth. Ben froze. You hear that? I nodded. We listened. Nothing. He shrugged. Maybe the wind. But the air was still. At midnight, I woke to footsteps. Soft ones. Deliberate. I reached for the flashlight and unzipped the tent slowly. Nothing was out there. I chalked it up to a raccoon and went back to sleep. The next morning, we found something strange. There were small piles of stones around our camp, 5 in total. Each one maybe a foot high, balanced with eerie precision. Not just a cairn. These looked intentional, ritualistic. Ben thought it was a prank. Maybe a local messing with us, he said. But we were 10 miles off any main trail. We left early that day and headed deeper into the forest. That's when things started to go wrong. The map didn't line up with the terrain. We found a clearing that wasn't supposed to exist. The sun felt like it was setting too soon, too fast. And that's when I saw the figure. It was maybe 50 yards off, standing between 2 thin birch trees. A man, I thought at first. Tall, pale. His arms were too long, though, and he didn't move. Just stood there, watching us. Do you see him? I whispered. Ben turned, but the figure was gone. Dude, You're freaking yourself out." Maybe I was. But that night, the whistling came again. Only this time, it was closer. Much closer. Just outside the tent. Ben grabbed the hatchet. I grabbed the flashlight. We burst out into the night, swinging the beam wildly. Nothing. Then came the whistle again. From behind us. We turned. Nothing. It played with us all night, circling, taunting, never getting close enough to see. At dawn, we found more of the stone stacks. This time in a ring around the tent. We had enough. We packed up and decided to bushwhack back toward the nearest ridgeline. We didn't care about the trail anymore. Hours passed. The forest seemed to rearrange itself. Weed-marked trees, only to find ourselves passing the same ones again. My GPS showed us moving in circles. The satellite phone? Dead. Around dusk, we found the cabin. It looked abandoned, roof caved in, moss covering the sides. Just one room. Broken furniture. A collapsed fireplace. But on the back wall, scratched deep into the wood, were these words. "Don't whistle back." I didn't sleep at all that night. Ben did. Sort of. But he woke up screaming around 2 a.m., said something cold had touched his face. When I turned the flashlight on him, there was a smear of black dirt across his cheek. Inside the tent. No footsteps. No trail. Just the smear. We left the cabin as the first light broke. We hiked all day. No trails. Just trees. At one point, we found what looked like a deer carcass in the underbrush, except it had no legs. Or eyes. And its mouth had been sewn shut with twine. We ran. By nightfall, we were delirious, hungry, and completely lost. The whistling came back. But this time it changed. It mimicked us. I swear to God, I heard it copy the little tunes Ben used to hum when he was nervous. Then my name. Not spoken. Whistled. Daeun. I snapped. I screamed into the trees. "What do you want?" And then it answered. It whistled a few notes. Then it whistled them again. And again. Over and over. Until I realized. It was waiting for me to respond. I almost did. Some stupid reflex to engage, to prove I wasn't afraid. Ben grabbed my arm hard. "Don't whistle back." I nodded. I wanted to cry. I don't know why, but that thing wanted a response. It was baiting me, luring me into some kind of invisible agreement. The next morning, the world changed. We stumbled out of the woods onto a dirt road around noon. A park ranger in a truck found us 15 minutes later. "You guys were 3 counties over," he said. "How the hell did you get out there?" We didn't know. We were dehydrated, covered in cuts and bruises, and barely coherent. Ben had a breakdown a month later. He stopped leaving his apartment. Said he heard whistling from the stairwell at night. One day he texted me. It followed me. That was the last I heard from him. I moved to Florida. Got a job as far from the forest as I could. I keep the windows shut tight. No wind chimes. No music boxes. Nothing that can whistle. Sometimes at night I'll hear it faintly. Just a single, distant note carried on the wind. I don't whistle back. Never again. People always ask why I quit the Forest Service after just one season. I usually tell them I wanted a job closer to home. That I got bored. That it wasn't for me. But that's not true. I left because something happened in 2019 while I was stationed in a remote firewatch tower in the Klamath Mountains. Something I haven't been able to explain and honestly don't want to. I'll try to tell it straight. You can decide if I'm crazy. In early May, I took a 3-month contract as a lookout. It was a solo post, 40 miles from the nearest town, only reachable by dirt road, and then a 2-mile hike. They told me I'd be monitoring for smoke plumes, logging radio chatter, and reporting storm damage. Easy money. The tower itself was ancient but solid, wooden, 30 feet high, with a 360-degree view. There was a cot, a radio, a propane stove, and enough canned food to outlast a nuclear winter. The first week was peaceful. Birds in the morning, deer grazing near the trail. I read, kept logs, and tried to enjoy the solitude. But on the 6th night, something changed. At around 2 a.m., I was woken by the tower shaking. Not violently, just enough to rattle the lantern on the desk. I thought it might be wind, but when I looked outside, the trees were still. No breeze. No storm. I turned on the floodlight and scanned the ground below. Nothing. I checked the radio for any seismic activity or strange weather reports. Nothing. I told myself it was a dream. Went back to bed. The next night, I heard footsteps. Heavy ones. On the stairs. Boom. 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 I grabbed my flashlight, crept to the door, and listened. The steps stopped just before the last plank. Whoever it was, whatever it was right outside the tower door. I counted to 3 and yanked it open. No one. I shined my light down the stairs. Empty. But the steps were there. Wet. Like someone had come up from the creek, leaving muddy prints on every board. I radioed it in. Ranger Torres responded. Told me maybe an elk had wandered up. Elk don't walk upstairs, I said. He laughed. No, but you'd be surprised what they try. If it comes back, radio again. It didn't happen again that night. On day 10, I started to see something in the tree line, just before sunset. At first it looked like a shadow, a tall one. Then I realized it was watching me. Every time I looked directly at it, it was gone. But out of the corner of my eye, I'd see it, lurking. Still, that night, I had a dream. At least I think it was a dream. I was in the tower, but the air smelled like smoke. I turned, and all the windows were blacked out like someone had painted them. Then I heard the sound again. The footsteps. Slower this time. Dragging. But I couldn't move. I woke up soaked in sweat, heart hammering. And when I looked at the windows, they were smeared with handprints. From the outside, I scrambled out with my flashlight and did a full sweep. Still no signs of life. No tracks. No sounds. But the prints were real. Long, narrow fingers. Like they were made by someone wearing gloves. Or not human at all. I stopped sleeping after that. By the 3rd week, my radio started picking up static, only at night. And sometimes, voices. Distorted. Like listening through broken speakers. It would always say the same phrase. Where's the fire? Again and again. The weirdest part? The radio would be turned off. I started logging every event. Date, time, what I saw or heard. I even started recording audio at night on my phone. One morning, I played back a recording from the night before. There were my notes, a few birds, some wind, and then, around 2:37 a.m., a clear voice whispered, "Let me in." I threw up in the sink. That afternoon, I hiked down the mountain to the base station to speak to Torres in person. He looked skeptical when I showed him the audio. "Prank," he offered. "Local kids messing with you?" I told him there were no locals. No kids. Just trees for miles. He sighed, then told me something I'll never forget. There was another lookout in that tower back in '94. Guy named Colin Granger. Solid guy. Didn't drink. No history of mental illness. After 3 weeks, he radioed in about seeing things. Hearing voices. Same as you. What happened to him? They found him after a storm. He'd jumped from the top. Broke his neck on impact. Left a journal with one sentence written over and over. I waited. Torres said, "The fire walks." I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. On my 28th night, it came back. I was watching the treetops with binoculars when I noticed the sun had stopped moving. I checked my watch. 6:41 p.m. Then again at 7:14. Still 6:41. The shadows weren't changing. The forest was frozen. Then I heard the footsteps again, climbing the tower. Slow, heavy, wet. This time, I didn't move. I just sat on the cot, clutching the hatchet I kept near the door. Then came the voice. It wasn't on the radio this time. It was inside my head. "You're the last light." The temperature dropped. My breath fogged. I stood up and faced the door. And then it opened. I don't remember much about its face. My brain won't hold it. But its eyes, they glowed like embers. And its skin was ash. Flaking. Charred. It stepped inside the tower and stood there, looking at me with curiosity. Like it was trying to remember me. The only thing I could think to do was scream. I screamed and swung the hatchet. I don't know if I hit it. I just know I blacked out. When I came to, it was morning. The door was shut. The windows were clear. No sign of a break-in. No tracks. No smell of smoke. But the floorboards were scorched where it had stood. I packed everything and hiked out without waiting for clearance. The Forest Service never called me back. Never asked why I left. I still have the recordings. I still have the journal. And I still hear the voice sometimes, when I'm alone and it's quiet. Where's the fire? If you're ever hiking in the Klamath Mountains and come across an old firewatch tower with scorched floorboards, don't go inside. And whatever you do, don't let it in.
If you're ever out in the woods and hear a voice calling your name, or a whistle from the trees, don't answer. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't follow it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy true horror stories like these, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss what's lurking in the shadows. And if you're heading into the woods yourself, check the links in the description for 10 essential Amazon products that might just keep you alive. Until next time, stay safe, stay alert, and don't stray off the trail.